What's up, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn some new tricks and to not suck as bad as they did last weekend. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, this is Adam Johnson.
And I'm Dan Ray, coming to you from Greensboro, North Carolina.
How's it going, Dan?
Super good. How are you?
I'm doing great. My company took us on a hike today.
Sweet.
So instead of, doing what I normally do at work, I hiked 5 miles and saw a bunch of waterfalls.
All right.
That's a good Monday.
That's good.
Feeling pretty good about that.
That's good. You gigged recently?
Well, no, I didn't. And it's been great.
Aren't weeks off nice sometimes?
Yeah, we did. I did an acoustic thing a few weeks back, and that was cool. Just having a little fun money. And this past weekend we did the Mother's Day deal, and it was really low key and really chill, and it was really nice.
Very good.
The only big band thing that's going on right now is we are kind of full steam ahead for this 90s dance party thing that we're doing called Fanny Pack Friday.
Yeah.
So the video ad launched, and I've just been bugging people about it incessantly, and we're just trying to hammer out the song list right now.
And let me tell you, that video ad you posted is amazing. How did you do that?
Oh, well, this is another one of those things where you don't necessarily have to know what you're doing, but you do need to be resourceful. So I found a really obnoxious Dayglow nightmare template on one of these. It's so perfect.
It's so perfect.
On one of these kind of trading post deals where people put After Effects templates that they've created up on a marketplace. And I found one that I liked, and I spent $25 on it and filled the content in, and it took me about an hour to turn that whole thing around.
Well, it's very impressive. It really is impressive. Yeah,
I mean, it really kind of sells the whole thing. And just to be clear, when I say me, I mean my friend Jeff and his company Pinnacle Productions, I believe is their name. But if you are in need of promotional material, videos, any sort of graphic design or anything like that, you should hit these guys up. They are very competitive, and they are in the business that we are in, so they can help you out. And it's a bit more personal than Fiverr. So check those guys out. This week, we would like to talk about...
Hang on. I want to say
please.
A little something about the gig I played this weekend.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please continue.
No problem. Because it was interesting. So we played at a new place we haven't played at before, Cooper's Ale House. And it's a restaurant that's attached to a hotel. And this restaurant used to exist in its own space that then got shut down hard by the health department, and they moved into... and apparently that old building has now sold, but it's going to have to be... it was like quadruple condemned. It's brutal. But the company moved into another restaurant space next to a hotel, fairly close to their old place, and apparently does music. And we dropped in there and got ourselves a booking. And we walked in there, and I should back up and say one of the missions for the Clanky Lincolns is to be broadly to not be demographically constrained. A lot of the bands in our area are cover bands that do classic rock, and that's about it. And their audience is 40 plus white guys, pretty much. So we wanted to reach all ages, all races, all demographics, what have you. We've really designed the set for that. Mm-hmm. We walked in there and started setting up, and literally we were the 4 white people in the building.
Okay.
And it was like, all right. And you can kind of see the people who were there eating, and there was a birthday party happening. And you kind of see them looking at us like, all right, how's this going to go, right? Where are these white boys going to play? And so I called an audible, and we sound checked with Let's Get It On.
Okay.
And
that song has its moment, and you decided that it was right at the beginning.
And I will tell you, we had the room from sound check.
There you go.
And it was just so cool. It was such a validation of, that we built the thing to reach out. We're doing some kind of R&B, and we even have a rap battle built into one of our songs. And we slayed. We completely slayed a room of black people. It was awesome. It was so
That's
cool.
Fantastic.
It was so cool. And giving out cards to them, and they wanted to see us again. It was really great. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can't play to any room, you need to probably look at your material and maybe kind of broaden it. The one that I feel we always kind of turn people around is either PYT or Kiss by Prince.
Oh yeah, we killed that one too.
So those are both really good tunes that everybody likes.
Yeah. Want to Be Starting Something is a good Jackson tune as well.
It's a long one, man.
Well,
you play the album version. That's 6 minutes and 30 some odd seconds.
We do.
And I know that because we did a Thriller tribute. We played every single song off that record.
Wow. Yeah. I skip a verse when I do that.
Which one though?
I don't even remember. One of the ones that you totally forget about.
One of the ones they don't play on the radio. Okay.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't do that whole song because you're right. It's ridiculously long.
Yeah.
But a winner.
Yes. Well, very good. I'm glad to hear that that went well.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about going to places we haven't been before, I will beseech our audience, if you're out there, we are playing a big outdoor event in Kingsport, Tennessee, July 13th, and we are looking for some sort of routing gig in the Chattanooga area on the 14th of July. So if you know anybody that's looking for a band or a venue that might have a need for a pretty fun party band, hit us up at coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. I would love to get their info. And since we're talking about getting in touch with us, this is another episode that is going out solely by the request of our
listener.
Our super listener.
Well, as far as we can tell, our listener.
Yes. Chris Domingue. Yeah. He gets what he wants. You know why? Because he's got the know-how and the drive to ask.
That's right.
And because we are very easily influenced, if you want to hear us talk about something, all you have to do is ask. We will take any and all suggestions.
Because here's the thing. Basically, we're in cover bands, so we're basically dancing monkeys already.
Right.
So tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you want to hear us talk about, and we will totally do that for you.
Last week, we talked about how what we talk about doesn't matter, and we don't even take our own advice.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, this show is barely hanging on as it is.
Listen, I think we can pull it through, though. I think we can pull it through.
I feel like we're still doing a good job, for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, for episode 8.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad.
We've made it this far.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good times. This episode, we are talking about gear. Specifically, sound reinforcement, I believe, is the topic du jour.
Yeah.
And we are both in bands that own our own PA, and that is an interesting conversation or thing to consider, whether you're starting a band or you're trying to put one together, or if you are already established and kind of looking at the next steps for what you guys want to do. If you go on the Cover Band Confidential blog, I wrote an article about why having a PA would be a pretty good idea. And I can tell you our story, which is that we were getting going and we kept running into situations where we'd get a really decent, high-paying private event, and we'd have to kind of cobble together a PA from, so-and-so has the speakers and so-and-so has the mixer, and just kind of like cobbling together stuff at the last minute. And it was always this huge harangue. And we finally sat down with our agent and I was like, we're thinking about doing this. Will this help? And she said, if you get a PA, we can definitely give you more business. And so we bit the bullet and we did the Sweetwater 48-month purchase deal.
Yep. We
financed a pretty solid PA. And as soon as we did that, the agency stopped calling. But it's all good. It kind of coincided with a bunch of other fortuitous situations for us, and we ended up, it wasn't like it sat in my basement for months on end.
Right.
It was just kind of one of those funny things that as their assistants kind of waned, our reputation kind of picked up, and that PA gets quite a bit of use.
Sure.
And we were going for kind of minimal size, maximum impact kind of setup. And so we've got like an 8-space rack that has all of our stuff, like all of our front of house stuff in it, including wireless mics and in-ear monitors, which we will definitely delve into.
Yep.
And those are running into a pair of KW181 subs, which are the QSC wood cabinet subwoofers, and 2 QSC K12s, which are their plastic mid-tier speakers. So pump at about 4,000 watts. And for about 90% of what we do, it is more than enough.
Yeah,
and,
I would say.
great clarity, good punch. We get lots
How
and lots
often
of
do you get above 3 on those speakers?
That is one of the wonderful things that I don't have the answer to because I hire a sound guy.
Yeah. Maybe the most important piece of gear you got right there.
Absolutely. We can delve into that as well, just to kind of talk about, when's a good time to do that. So, but yeah, we have been very happy. We are pretty much all, we run everything through a Behringer X32 rack and Sennheiser wireless mics and Sennheiser wireless in-ear monitors. And we have a seismic audio 3-way split snake so that we can plug into other people's systems if we are playing like a festival stage or something like that. And we have our own clean little monitor world, regardless of where we are and whether we are providing sound or not. And we love it. It's been very, very good. It's been worth every single penny.
That's great.
Spread out over 48 months.
Right.
What about you, Dan?
Well, so when I started the Clanky Lincolns, let's just bookmark that I want to come back to what is the jankiest PA system you've ever seen. So it became clear pretty promptly that we needed to upgrade what we were working with. Mm-hmm. And what I ended up researching and buying for my purposes, and remember, I'm mostly playing bars. I have played some outdoor things. I've played some fairly big rooms. What I am working through is a Behringer XR16, which is the mid-range of the little brother package, the line that is slightly below the one that you're using.
Yes.
16 inputs, and that's my experience kind of is no matter how many you've got, it's not quite enough. So that's where I'm at right now.
Now, to be clear, isn't the model is it the XR18 Air? Is that what it's called? It's 16 mic inputs.
It's gosh, I'd need to count them. So there's a 12, a 16, and an 18, and I have the 16.
Got it.
And the 18 counts as inputs 2 quarter-inch aux ins. Yeah. So it wasn't as useful to me.
Yeah, anyway, I'm looking at it right now. There is an extra 16. I was thinking about the other one.
Yeah, I'm on the 16. The other big difference between the 16 and the 18 is that the USB output. So the 16 is not an audio interface. You can't do multi-track recording like you can out of the 18. Mm-hmm. What it does do is stereo recording onto a USB stick.
Mm-hmm. And all of those guys do those, which is great.
Well, the 18 doesn't. The 18 only does multi-channel out as an audio interface.
Yeah, the X32 does do it through the USB. Cool. I'm actually on Sweetwater's site looking at it right now. So
cool.
And I also like the front panel MIDI in and out. That's great.
That is nice. I haven't really used it, but I know it's a useful thing for the future. Mm-hmm. So I got that, and then I came out of a band that used the Bose L1 tower systems, and I'm pretty sold on the linear array as a concept. So I shopped those. There was a new generation of them that happened since that Bose came out, and the one I settled on is the TurboSound Inspire IP2000, which was at the time the top of the line. They've come up with an IP3000 just came out a month or two ago. Yeah. But a year or so, the 2000 was the top of the line. They are 2,000 watts each, and it's the tower kind of rests in a 12-inch sub. Mm-hmm. So there are 2 of those. I am contemplating adding a sub to the lineup because it doesn't have that chest thump that I want.
Sure.
But it does fill a room very nicely. The beauty thing about these tower systems is they don't have to have a ton of volume output to fill a room very nicely. They throw really, really well. And that has to do with the physics of the sound wave. I could totally nerd out about it. But the feedback we get often is that we sound good, we're not too loud, and they want to rebook us. So that's those are good things. So we got all those. We're working through some fairly bargain basement wireless mics right now. I don't even remember the brand. They don't rack. The receiver has to sit on top of my rack right now. It's prime for upgrade. And the other piece I have that's kind of interesting is a PA2, Dry Rack PA2, which is a speaker management system that has built into it room auto EQ. So you take a monitoring mic, like a flat FR mic, and stand back from the speakers and push a button on the app, and the thing goes zoink, and then you hear the other speaker, does that on the left, and then on the right it goes zoink. and it's auto EQing the room without doing pink noise.
Right.
And it's very quick and very nice. And it comes up with an EQ line that's, specific to that room. And it's also doing automatic feedback suppression, which tower arrays are not very prone to feedback anyway. But this thing even, cuts that even more. I almost never have feedback issues.
That's great.
So the beauty of this system is that it fits completely into my Highlander, which was one of the requirements for it. I did, I laid out a tape measure and figured it all out, and I can carry the whole PA in my car, which is huge.
Yeah, we the car that we were hauling all of our gear in previously was a Honda Element, and believe it or not, that whole rig will fit inside a Honda Element. Now,
very nice.
What we have now done is the Elements aren't really built to haul, so we have kids. And what we landed on is a 2015 Suburban LTZ.
Okay.
We can now fit the entire PA in the car without taking the car seats out. So
that's good. I have to leave the car seat in the storage unit when I put the PA in.
No, this is a have family band will travel setup. And also, if we chose to, we could tow anything we wanted with that thing. They're complete monsters. And it helps us assimilate in the very upwardly mobile suburban area of Metro Atlanta that we live in. That's the biggest challenge, is trying to figure out which white Suburban is our white Suburban. There's quite a few of them about.
There are a lot of red Highlanders around too. I know the pain.
Yep. Good times.
Yeah. All right. So the question we were specifically asked, though, we're both in the digital mixer powered speaker world.
Yes.
Chris's question was, how do you feel about that versus analog powered mixers and passive speakers?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm for them.
Yeah.
Good
night, kids.
Yeah, that's our show. We'll just start. So let's talk about pros and cons here. So mainly, the two things you're going to run into is the new school versus the old school approach is really affordability. Because passive speakers, speaker amps, and out like full size analog mixers are 9 times out of 10 going to be the more affordable option. You can go as low as you could also do something like a like a powered mixer that's just sending the juice out of the board itself. And those are definitely more affordable, and they have onboard effects, and they could probably do, I would say, 60% of the gigs that are out there could be done in that configuration. The main thing that we were looking for was efficiency and quality, and for us, the obvious choice was to go the digital powered route because it takes up way less space. I know for us, the issue with with using in-ear monitors, that's 4 less things that we have to carry when we load in, and it's that was just kind of the decision that we made. And I did a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, went on a lot of message boards, talked to my Sweetwater rep, went through the ringer trying to figure out what worked best for us. And a lot of people kind of were surprised that we ended up going with the X32 route as opposed to the XR series. But one of the things that I really wanted to be able to do is expand when if the band ever got to that point. And just some of the things that they've released in the past couple of years have kind of reinforced my gut feeling that was the right move. The last thing that happened was the release of the X Live card that Behringer, I think, hit stores maybe last month, which allows you to record 32 channels of audio directly to SD cards that you put in the mixer itself. So I can record 32 channel multi to a couple of SD cards and have live tracks of every show that we record.
Wow.
Which is great for promo material. We're in the process of adding some new bands to the roster and some new concepts. And that's going to allow us to do that much quicker, because I can just throw those things into Logic. I can edit them, put a quick, if that band plays one show, I can take the audio from it and put a promo together in, a couple of hours, and it'll be just, it'll be what we're looking for.
Very cool. I'll say this about the sort of low end of the PA world. I see bands, this, goes back to the jankiest PA system you've seen. I see a lot of bands in smaller venues using their guitar amps to fill the room with guitar and their bass rigs to fill the room. And I'll say this about bassists. They tend to have pretty darn good rigs.
Yeah.
A bass rig can fill a room of arbitrary size. And then the whole point of the PA is to carry the vocals. It's like the vocalist's amp.
Yes.
And
that's traditionally the way it was.
Right.
Back before PAs could do the job that, modern PAs can do, that they're basically, they were there to mic the singers, and that's it. Exactly.
And if you had a big enough room that had house sound, you mic'd your amps and put that through the house sound. But basically, if you're playing a bar, it was your amp, as the guitarist, it was your amp that was going to carry the room. And I'm still seeing bands do that, and it's a valid way to go. It's fine.
It's kind of the same as it ever was kind of approach.
Same as it ever was. Yeah. The thing that, Adam, you and I both signed on to is the ampless modeling world.
Yes.
And there are so many upsides to that. The downside is, of course, the amp and cabinet that's producing your tone isn't also putting that tone out onto the airwaves, right? You need a PA to amplify it and make it audible. But man, is there a lot less to carry. And man, does my Helix have every amp I'd ever want to dream about playing through, and all the effects I'd ever want, and new updates every 3 or 4 months. God, it's just such a big step forward in terms of flexibility and in terms of ease of use. It's a little bit of an investment, but boy, if you can find your way to leave that Fender Jazzman at home and bring out something that's cleaner on stage, quieter on stage, and gives you all the flexibility you'd ever want, I just really recommend it. There's some great tools out there. Adam and I are both Helix guys, but I've played I played an atomic amplifier for a couple of years, and that was very good. AxeFX is great. The Headrush pedal board is apparently very good. There are lots of options out there. So
yeah, the Kemper Profiler also.
Kemper Pro. I mean, that's going to be the top of the line forever, probably the Kemper.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an amp nerd, the Kemper is definitely the way to go. And it's also, the thing that a lot of people don't consider is that even if you're like a pedal guy, almost all of these take pedals really well. I could not wait to get rid of my pedals. They're currently all up on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. I'm ready to just cash in.
Yeah, I need to do that too. The one pedal, I mean, I'm waiting for a couple of emulations to come in the Helix. I can't quite get rid of my Digitech Freakout quite yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a brand new guy. I mean,
it is.
Unless you're putting like a Sustainiac or something in your in the guitar itself, you can't really get those effects that way.
Yeah, and that one's so juicy. That one's so tasty.
Yeah, I've never used one, but I've seen plenty of demos. I will say this: if you were looking at a Helix or one of these emulators, it kind of ruins Guitar Center for you.
That's true. I have no interest in any of the guitar Reddits or
it's just
boards.
I go in there and I'm just like, nope, everything's. I'm good.
I need some strings. So
yeah. Or I spend more time in the pro audio section now.
Right. Yeah.
Because now that I own a PA, now I have all these other things I've got to worry about.
Right.
But yeah, for us, it was a situation where the amp situation was just, we were playing in rooms that weren't built to house live bands. And so you were dealing with reflections and things that just weren't optimal. And also, because we were playing corporate events, there was a certain aesthetic that, you want to achieve because, there's probably going to be an award ceremony or some sort of, there's going to be stuff going on stage besides what you were doing. And the less that you can put in front of, for people to stare at, the better. So in our case, when you see, when you walk up and see our setup, it's literally a set of drums, a keyboard stand if there's a keyboard player, and nothing else. That's it.
Yeah.
It's super clean. And for us, we like to run around and, we've got some high energy moments and having just all of this room, so much room for activities.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's always a big win for us. And also the fact that our PA is small but efficient, and our front of house guy just walks around with an iPad. He can go to different parts of the room. He can tune the system as he walks around.
Yeah.
Unless you knew what he was doing, like I find, I'm doing the show and I see him in the back and there's just people like, hey, what are you doing? And he's kind of like showing off what he's doing. Everybody thinks it's like the coolest thing. Like he's doing a magic trick.
Yeah. He'll mute you just to show off,
Yeah. Right. Or, crank up the reverb and the delay just to show that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, meanwhile, I run sound off an iPad that's attached to my mic stand.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, I'm set it and forget it, but not always. It's good to have, immediate access to my faders if I need them.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about why I ended up going with the sound guy.
Mm-hmm.
So Members Only has the benefit of being in a certain price range that, I had the margin to do it. So what I have basically done is I have a guy who has been honestly a family friend, a guy I've known since we were like little kids, that really kind of bought into the branding and the approach that we were going for, and also happens to own a studio and knows live sound. Who's like, I want in. So when we play, I pay him like he's a member of the band, and his job is to set the PA up, run sound check, and do all the things that I could do, but I choose not to. Before he came along, I'll say this, the breaking point that I had was we were doing an event in Kiowa, South Carolina at a resort. And I drove the PA up, I set the PA up, I ran the sound, and things just weren't working. And actually one of the reasons why I ended up going with the X32 over the XR18 is I was borrowing one and I didn't have a router. I was trusting the stock router.
That is the thing about the XR series. The Wi-Fi in it is terrible. You have to have an external router.
So let's get down into let's get granular for just a second. The reason why people have issues with the wireless in the XR series is because it runs on the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth, which is just very, very high traffic. Microwaves run on it. Wi-Fi, all Wi-Fi networks, that are typically public run off of it. And it's just a really hard spectrum to get a solid signal out of.
The classic thing that'll happen is it'll work great in your basement. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get it somewhere where there are 100 people in it with cell phones in their pockets, and it'll all go to hell. Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I got to set up my own network, I might as well, get an X32 that has more functionality. But yeah, so, it worked during sound check, but then the guest showed up and then I couldn't adjust things.
Exactly.
And it just completely took me out of the job that I was supposed to be doing, which was, fronting a band. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I hired him out, and he's done a fantastic job. And so much so now he's actually our admin. So he's making, on some gigs, he makes more money than I do because I'm paying him a 5% administration fee off of the gross bookings. So any gig that he books, which is what he's doing, he's sending out contracts and doing a lot of the legwork, kind of in tandem with myself. And yeah, so he makes good money doing the stuff that I don't want to do.
Good.
And my favorite thing in the world is when my guys call me or send me a text and they're like, hey, what's the load-in time for XYZ? I'm like, I don't know, ask Ben. Oh. I don't know, ask Ben are my favorite 4 words in the whole wide world. It's my puppy's favorite too.
Yeah, really. I can.
I think there's a dog outside. Anywho.
Yeah.
So yeah. So like I said, there's pros and cons to all of those things. But if you have the means to do it yourself and save yourself a couple of bucks, by all means, go for it. I just felt that my quality of life improved when I stopped.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can say the same thing about when I gave up the notion that I'm ever going to be like a yard work doer. I like to have a nice yard, but I'm never going to do the work for it. So I found a guy, great guy, and boy, my life is so much better.
Man, I could use that
really
right now.
good.
I tell you,
really good.
As you get older, you kind of realize that your time is worth certain things, and it's not worth other things,
Absolutely.
and you are willing to pay for them.
Yep.
So I definitely feel you on that.
And as I've gotten older, I've had more capacity to pay for them too.
Also that.
Yeah.
So you guys are still using wedges, though. Is that correct?
We are, and we're using. My drummer has a pretty nice monitor that he sits on the back line and usually sits opposite the bassist. So my bassist is like picking up sidewash off of his side monitor, and then I have two super crappy custom brand with a K.
I know. We all know custom. You don't even have to explain it to us.
Well, they're 12-inch wedges, and they make noise. They make some noises. It gets the job done. It gets the job done. And I bought them actually for a gig when it was the first time I'd taken the PA outdoors into like a big outdoors. It's like a public park. And I will say that turbo sound system, I played in Center City Park in Greensboro here, my hometown, and it filled a one city block park very amply at about 2/3 volume.
Good.
It was my first time turning it up that far, and I was clear I was going to set them way out in front of me, and I'd need some monitoring, so I bought these cheap things to get me through that thing, and I'm still using them because I have this hunch that someday, in the not too distant future, I'll be investing in some IEMs.
Yep.
Which is
IEM meaning in-ear monitor.
In-ear monitors, which is I suspect where you are bringing this conversation. Yeah. So, because I have questions for you about this, and I think probably a lot of people have. There are certainly bands that are in the position mine is in, which is, I hear people saying that they're great. I understand in theory that they're great, but I sort of can't picture the leap that it would take to actually use them.
So, what is the leap? What does the leap feel like to you? What is the net loss, net gain of switching over? I see a ton of gain. All right. I see a ton of gain. I'm clear that the, a more controlled monitoring environment is going to only help our performance. When I started the band, I really wanted to be on electronic drums, and my drummer has convinced me otherwise. And I am convinced. He's got good touch on the acoustics, and they give us so much more energy that, I want the acoustic drums, but I don't want to walk out with my ears ringing at the end of the night. Right. It's funny. We're having the exact opposite conversation, because as an 80s band, we're looking at the option of going digital drums, but go on.
Well, yeah, it's right for your idiom.
Who you calling an idiom?
You know what? It's right for your, but we found that the energy of the acoustics makes a bunch of difference. So we want to stick with that. But it's brutal when it's loud on stage. I hate that.
Yeah.
And so that's all upside. The thing that I'm, so two things that I am concerned about. The first is I am running sound. So part of what I need to be able to do is hear what the front of house sounds like. And I actually put the house mix in my wedge.
Okay.
And since I'm one of the lead vocalists and the lead guitar, I'm mixed front enough that I can do that. I don't need a particular mix for me. So I'm listening to house mix in my wedge, and it feels to me like having the house mix in my IEMs kind of defeats the purpose. So that's the first question.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about that?
So the main reason why we went with in-ear monitors was so that the whole setting monitors up process was kind of stricken from the setup time.
Yes.
So our environment being everybody on stage has in-ear monitors, either wired or wireless, and they're controlled wirelessly via an app on the musician's phone. So they simply once we get everything unmuted, they adjust levels accordingly, and that's just not even a part of the process. And
so what you're saying is there's an app for the X32 rack that each of your people has. They're driving their own monitor mix.
Correct.
Okay.
And it can be adjusted on the fly by anybody on stage at any time that they need it.
Right.
So if something gets crazy gain staged, or a gremlin is in the system somewhere, issues can be resolved in the moment, and not have to stop the show or stop in between songs and say, "Excuse me, can I get a little less this," and the whatever, that kind of deal. So that's part of it. The other part being, because I have a front of house guy, it's now solely on his shoulders to fix the issues that are there.
Right.
And I now have somebody to direct the audience members to, because nothing drives me crazier than somebody coming up during the song that I'm singing going, "I can't quite da 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 da." I can just be like, "You see that guy in the tuxedo t-shirt in the back of the room? Go talk to that guy.
Can you play Eddie Raffi?"
Just all kinds of interesting requests.
Yeah.
The other thing that we are using the in-ears for is, because we are primarily a band that, we're not primarily a band that uses tracks. We are a band that uses tracks. We use them to feed a click to the entire band.
Right.
So even in songs we're not playing 2 tracks, we're typically playing to a click. And we use that pre-fader click monitor feed setup to our advantage. So on the click channel, you're not just getting, a solid tempo being shot at you. You're also getting cues. So you're getting count offs. You're getting, we're going into the bridge. Hey, we're starting this song in, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're kind of using that silent channel that's going into our heads to communicate with each other. And it allows us to do things that other bands would have to either spend a lot of time in rehearsal doing, or not able to do at all. So,
all right. Well, now that so that leads me into the other thing that concerns me about them.
Okay.
Which is unlike your show, which is dialed in on rails and as you just described, basically automated.
Yep.
Ours is pretty fluid, and we make a set list, but then we call audibles all night long, and so I worry about being isolated. I know we could set up a mic on stage that is only going into the in-ears.
So, let's talk about that for just a second.
Yeah.
So what you're able to do, it's 8:00, isn't it?
Can you hear the church behind me? Yeah. There you go.
That's awesome. What you can do is there's a cool piece of kit called, I don't know, there's different versions of it. The one that I know of is called a cough drop, and it's used in radio, and it's basically a momentary switch where you can either choose to switch the channel on or off by stepping on a button. Then what you then have is you have a talkback mic that only the guys on stage can hear. So what you could do is, as the song's wrapping up, you could just go over there, step on that button and say, "Go into this." And then that way, all of those audibles that you're calling are happening, momentarily without the audience knowing about it.
Yeah, in the mixing environment and not the front of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
So it gives you the ability to, in my opinion, it increases the production value of the show, because you're able to make those calls quickly and on the fly without, involving the audience.
Yeah.
The other thing for me as a vocalist is it makes just an unbelievable difference in the quality of my delivery.
Oh, I'm sold about that.
Yeah.
When I find myself trying to belt over, other stuff in the house mix, that's a rough night.
I belt over no one.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's also it's really improved my mic technique. So much so I've actually gotten, I felt like that it was the weirdest compliment I ever got. But this guy walked up to me in between sets one time, and he goes, "I know that you know how to sing." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" And he goes, "When you sing high, you don't move the mic." So basically, because I don't pull the mic away from myself when I go up in my range, he could tell that I had the control that's needed. But it's really just because I can hear myself, and I don't have to worry about blowing myself out, because I don't have to push to go, go where I need to go, I guess.
Yeah.
So, the other thing about, talking about cartage is one of the things. So that's, you guys have, how many mixes are you running?
Well, one that is specifically for the back line, and then right now we're piggybacking on the mains for our front wedges.
So how many speakers is that?
3.
3. So 3 plus the mains. That's for us. It would have been 5 or
Right.
6.
Right.
So that's way less cartage for us. And what we were looking at to purchase were like K10s or K8s. And when we did the math, what we're using are the Sennheiser IEM2 G3 setups, which is basically a single transmitter in a half of a single rack space that powers 2 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm getting 2 mono mixes off of each of those. So I have 2 of those. That's 4 wireless mixes in the space of one single rack. And between them, that breaks it down to about $600 per mix. And that is actually cheaper than what I would have gotten, the speakers for. So it was actually a net plus for us financially to do it that way as well.
And just to be clear, physics-wise, the transmitter doesn't care how many receivers are picking up what it's.
Yeah, you could run as many off of them as you want. What this allows us to do is you have two independent mixes per.
Exactly. But you could have, if my bassist and drummer wanted the same mix,
Mm-hmm.
I would not need a separate transmitter for them. The transmitter is just putting vibrations in the air. It has no idea how many receivers are picking it up.
Yeah, and there's companies like Galaxy Audio which sell like 1 transmitter and 5 receivers,
Mm-hmm.
as long as everybody's cool with the same mix.
Right.
For us, I'm not. That's not what I'm about. If I could have my way, I'd love a stereo mix, and that will probably happen at some point down the road. But it's just right now the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that financially to get that.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, I am looking at it. There is a brand new, actually, all digital model from MIMO, I think, MI909, I believe is the model number. Mm-hmm. And people are saying it is hot. It's got that same feature of being able to isolate the left or right side of the stereo input in a particular receiver, so you can split it up into separate mixes that way. I'm thinking my step in might be to put the 2 of us in front on IEMs first and just see what we think. Mm-hmm. It would be easy to put Tony, the drummer, on a wired one. Scott likes his freedom, though he doesn't play wireless. He plays with a long cable.
So just for clarity, it's the Mi Pro MI909 digital wideband.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just because I remember I was like, I think that might be what that is, but I just Googled it. So
yep, very good.
And Mi Pro or Mi Pro, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. They are a player in the game. I know of a few people who sell them. You can buy them on Reverb. Apparently, mm-hmm. the main person that they are using as an endorsement is
their website is straight 90s. Have you seen their website?
Well, when I tell you this, so I'm on Reverb looking at this model, and the video that they're using is Michael Sweet from Stryper.
Right on.
So,
yeah, okay.
To hell with monitors.
That's right. All right. Well, I'll keep you posted in my progress toward. I think it's inevitable that I'm going to end up there, but I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I mean, I started using in-ears probably back in 2005, 2006, and we were still using analog boards at that point. But it was just one of those things that at that point it was kind of what separated the men from the boys, and we were playing original music on big stages, and it was just something that we needed to do in order to kind of keep up. But I really enjoyed for me, I kind of enjoyed the isolation because, mm-hmm. One of the plus sides of having in-ear monitors is that when the drunk person comes up and asks for a song, you can be like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. So
right.
There's pros and cons.
Right. Well, that is the other thing. I mean, we spend a lot of our time out off the stage engaging with people, and mm-hmm. I guess I'd drop one out of my ear if I needed to hear somebody talk.
Yeah. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. It is isolating, but I feel like it can be isolating in a good way. We were having that conversation about sunglasses. So you can, if you want to, like certain songs, like especially songs that are in like the lower part of my range where I need a bit more resonance. Mm-hmm. Like Don't You Forget About Me is a good example of that. A lot of times I literally turn the monitors off.
Huh.
I just turn my belt pack off because what that does is it's just like earplugs in your ears. And so you can kind of feel that resonance in that lower part of your range a bit better.
Still feel the bass, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got live drums, so, that's basically what I'm following at that point.
Yeah.
In songs where I kind of know where I am and I don't necessarily need cues from anything, I also have the option I can turn them down or turn them off. And then sometimes at the end of the night, I pull them both out. Like when we're doing, Don't Stop Believing, you want to hear the crowd just, losing their mind about that. So you pull them out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear people putting like crowd ambience mics out.
Mm-hmm. We don't do that. Right now, we're at the point, like you're saying, you never have enough. Currently on our X32 rack, we are maxed out. One of the things I am looking forward to is the possibility of us going to digital drums, because that frees up 6 channels on the board just immediately. So that gives me all kinds of fun options like stereo guitars and, additional inputs on stage. So that's always going to be, cool. So, but we may not do it. We'll see.
Okay. All right. I have, we're closing in on time here. I have one last question that I'm going to ask because I want to answer it, but I'm going to pretend that it's a topic for discussion.
Oh yeah. I love those.
Yeah. What is the single purchase you've made that made the most difference in your band, in your experience of like, not necessarily playing, but of like the equipment side of it? What's your purchase that altered the game the most?
Well, it's not entirely fair because I bought that PA all at once. It literally showed up on a pallet at my house. Mm-hmm. So, spending that kind of money all at once, was definitely, it changed our game immediately. But I'm going to go ahead and say that when I got the Helix, it was a trajectory change for the band, because it happened by accident. It was a situation where we were playing in a room that was too small and too reflective, and they were like, we can't do amps. So I was like, I'll pick one up at Guitar Center and I'll try it out and I'll return it if I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I liked it, and I liked it a lot, and I liked it so much. And the other guitar player was, he had kind of cobbled together a direct solution and he hated it. And he literally bought one like the very next week. And is telling the bass player he didn't have to bring, a rig anymore. Like, he was like, you don't need to tell me twice. He was on board from the drop. So we went from a band that had, 3 amps on stage to a band that had no amps on stage literally overnight. And our sound guy is just like, you guys have no idea.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best for a sound guy.
Because he has control over literally everything now.
Mm-hmm. And not even any monitor bleed.
Nope.
That's great.
So yeah, it's but an entire PA is one. But if it's just a single piece of kit, it's probably the Helix.
Good. All right. Good answers. I could probably answer both of those myself if I didn't have the thing to say that is not that.
All right. Lay it on me.
I bought myself a rock and roller cart.
Ooh, that's a close third, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. So for those of you who don't know, it's a expanding, collapsible, very flexible wheel cart that I can get my whole PA and lights on. I travel pretty light for lights. I got a couple of Chauvet
4 bars
sticks. I have a 4 bar and I have a gig bar.
Yeah.
And a haze machine. And I can get all of that onto it and wheel it all in. I have bungees that like strap it all up, and I got a very particular Tetris game I play that makes it all work. And I can wheel that whole thing in from my car in one trip, and it is a complete game changer.
Yep. And they occasionally go on sale. I picked one up for I think $40 or $50 on Amazon a while back. And it's the mid-size one. They have them in different configurations, but the mid-size one gets, most of the job done.
I have the biggest one, and I bought it with the off-road wheels because you never know.
Yep. Yeah. I would say that those are definitely well worth it.
Yeah.
So I sometimes don't have one, get one.
When I'm unloading my car into the storage unit we practice in, it's really like 30 feet from the tailgate of my car in the door of our unit. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes think like, I'm not going to get the whole thing. But then I think, no, I'm going to have to take 2 trips, a trip with each of the subs, and then 4 or 5 more, like all the back and forth I'm going to have to do versus like, I can load this thing, strap it all together, wheel it in. It's just, even for a walk of 15 steps, it's so much easier.
Yeah, we I one of the things I really enjoyed it for is I had that acoustic gig and I was able to basically load everything in on one trip, which was very nice. So check out Rock and Rollers for sure. I'll probably drop a link in the show notes.
I mean, listen, we've listed a lot of gear here, so I'll tell you what. Let's just talk afterward or email afterward and get some links together for all the gears stuff that we've dropped in this episode.
Absolutely, we will do that. I think that's a good stopping point. So
I think so too.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Hope you guys found that informative. And again, if you want to get in touch with us, find us on Facebook at Coverband Confidential. You can email us at coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. I won't mention our Twitter name because nobody follows it anyway, and it's hard to pronounce. So, we're just still plugging along, trying to get this thing going. So if you have any suggestions or things you want to talk about, just let us know. We'd love to talk about them.
Yep. Share us with your friends. Listen, if you follow and like us on iTunes, it actually really helps in the search and the rankings. Yeah. So please do that.
Thank you guys very much. And until next time, this is Adam Johnson from Atlanta, Georgia.
And Ray from Greensboro, North Carolina.
And you are listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast, Episode 8. Have a good week.